Shahina is the founder, I understand, and leader of Hopeful Hearts Foundation Mayamiko in Malawi, and it's our newest Susila Dharma member project. So Shahina is going to take us today on a journey to meet her project. And thank you so much, Shahina. And thank you, Valentine, for being the bridge between Susila Dharma and letting us get to know about the work that Shahina is doing. So please, Shahina, take it away. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much, Virginia. And thank you so much to everyone for being here and hearing about this project. I am definitely nervous, so please bear with me as I share all the information regarding the project. It's an absolute pleasure and honor to be able to do this with all of you today. So, Mayamiko Child Care Centre. So, I'm just going to start off with just giving a bit of a background about myself. Like Virginia has mentioned, my name is Shahina Omar. Mayamiko Child Care Centre was founded in April 2023. Just a little bit of a brief regarding myself. So I've worked in public and private sector development for over 10 years in Malawi. My daughter is fifth generation in Malawi. So we are originally from India, but we have spent many generations in Malawi now as a family. Professionally, I currently work with the United Nations Development Program in private sector development to support the youth in entrepreneurship, to build sustainable businesses. And this is what I do on a day-to-day basis. I am passionate about holistic well-being, and I've co-authored a book called Heal Now that provides a step-by-step framework for emotional well-being, which I also love to integrate into the childcare center that I'm going to be speaking about. Since the age of 17, I've had an inner drive and purpose to support and protect vulnerable children from dire circumstances. And I would love to be able to support them achieve their full potential. So just a little brief about myself so you can know who I am as a person. With regards to Mayamiko, so our mission at Mayamiko is to empower vulnerable children in Blantyre, Malawi, to overcome adversity and realize their full potential. So our vision is to create a nurturing and inclusive environment where every child, regardless of their background or circumstances, can thrive and grow into confident, self-reliant individuals who contribute positively to society. So this is like a bit of an overview of obviously our mission and vision, and now I'll be going into the specifics as to how we actually do that. So how do we achieve this? So Mayamiko Child Care Centre works directly with the Ministry of Social Welfare. So for example, it doesn't necessarily operate as an orphanage or just a center where any child can come into, or if I come across a child, they're able to integrate. Like, we work directly with the government. And the reason for that is we support extremely dire and vulnerable cases. So we have children facing abuse, abandonment, and extreme poverty. So ultimately, Mayamiko works as an emergency childcare center. And since 2023, we've supported over 65 children with residential care and our reintegration programs. So how do we, I'm just a bit more in depth as to how we achieve this. So what happens is we have a child who's abandoned, neglected, or experienced some form of abuse or loss of parent. This child, via a well-wisher or someone that's noted this case, or even a caregiver, will then take the child and report that case to the Ministry of Social Welfare. Once that case is reported to the Ministry of Social Welfare, the ministry, of course, doesn't just work with Mayamiko. There's a database of centers that children can be placed in. So if Mayamiko Child Care Centre at that moment is able to take in that child and has space for that child, and it meets the requirements of our center, we will then open a child case at our center do a health assessment, and commence integration protocols, and then ultimately reintegration protocols. So this is like a brief of how a child is brought into our center. Do you have any questions so far, or should we leave that for the end? Leave it for the end?
Yeah, I think we can leave it for the end.
Okay, so what does the Child Care Centre provide? So it's not necessarily that we receive a emergency case and it's just shelter that's given. We believe that there's much more that goes into childcare. Of course, if you're a parent or an older sibling or a grandparent, you understand the complexities of raising a child and tending to a child's needs. So we offer shelter, nutrition, education, healthcare, well-being within the home. And so this provides a very holistic approach to childcare. These are some of the pictures from the childcare center. So this is the garden, actually. The childcare center sits on a beautiful 2-acre land, and the garden space is about an acre. So this is some of our residences at the childcare center. These are some of the activities that we've carried out. There's some yoga on the left. There's a circle happening and administrated by 2 of our volunteers. So we are actually in partnership with a UK-based organization called Project Trust. This trust sends 2 volunteers on a yearly basis. And so every year we have 2 volunteers that come in and support education, do tutoring for the kids, activities, and also support operations within the home as well. There's a few more pictures. On the left, we have some of our staff members. So the Mayamiko Child Care Centre at present is run by 14 staff members. This includes the caregivers, so the house mothers on a daily and nightly basis. It includes our house manager, our project assistant. We also have 3 guards as security that offer and provide security on a nightly basis. We have a day guard as well and a gardener too. So we are a team of 14 strong members on the ground that supports the operations of the institution. On the right-hand side, you can see a little gathering where we were having a house meeting with all the children. So this is just a bit of a feel of the home and some images for you to look at. These are some of our members that reside in the home. And I didn't want to be so explicit with the stories because it tends to be quite heartbreaking when we go into the very nitty-gritties, but just to kind of give you a little bit of a glimpse of the type of cases that we're taking on the ground. So on our far left, we have young Sandra Kumwenda, and Sandra was found abandoned and neglected by her mother, who was a prostitute and wasn't able to support Sandra and neglected her to the point where her case was then reported by the neighborhood. And that is when the protocols commenced. The case was reported by a neighborhood well-wisher to the ministry. The ministry contacted us, and then Sandra was integrated into the institution. A couple more cases of kids over here that you see. So in the black and white top in the middle, we have Bright, and next to Bright is Brandina. So these 2 are actually twins, and they lost their father, and their mother had a car accident. So they weren't able to be tended to by their caregivers, and family wasn't able to support either. And so once again, protocols took place, and we then integrated them into Mayamiko. We have one of our cases here as well. I'll do a last case, Shalom Willard. So she actually came from a very dysfunctional, mentally abusive, physically abusive family. Once again, the case was brought to the Ministry of Social Welfare and reintegrated. So these are some of the cases just so you can have a feel of the type of emergencies we're dealing with. Like I mentioned earlier, it is dire and very vulnerable cases that we're looking at. So what happens next? So the Child Care Centre runs as a home that offers the multiple types of support that I've shared. However, we only take children up till the age of 12. So of course, once a child is brought into the home, we start doing assessments for the child. So does the child have family? Does it have community? Is the child able to be reintegrated into their community? Can adoption be a form of support for the child? Can foster care be a form of support for the child? So all of these assessments commence once a child is integrated into the home. And by the age of 12, a child is then either put into foster care, put into community integration, and then is also supported with boarding school and vocational school. Over here, children ages 18 plus, we support either with independent living, further education, whether it's formal or informal, foster care, and community integration. So thus far, since commencing operations, we've supported over 65 children, and all of these children either will reside in the home and are supported in the home itself, or have been reintegrated into foster care or community integration if they're above age 12, which we're now then supporting outreach, so food provision to ensure that they can continue living a healthy life, and also a few like mental and well-being coaching for them and the family. Come age 18 plus, we're then helping them move into independent living and supporting further education if that is something that they would like to do or are capable of doing. So ultimately, this is the structure that we have in place on the ground. I have been on the ground for, like I mentioned, above 10 years, but I feel like if you were to ask me, Shahina, what is the absolute perfect way of doing this? There is no answer. And I feel every month, every year, this changes, and it changes because of the dynamics on the ground, because of the enabling environment. And so as I have worked and gained experience, I am open, and I lead the team with flexibility and openness to adapt and change, one to the requirements of a child, or also to the requirements legality wise from the ministry or government wise as well. So this gives you a very, I feel, brief overview of the Child Care Centre. And then I was asked to mention a few fundraising needs of the center. So ultimately, here's a breakdown, a basic breakdown. So to run the home, our operational costs, which is staff salaries, food, healthcare, utilities. We have a budget per month to be able to operate as an emergency childcare center. House maintenance, so of course, just to ensure upkeep of the house and ensure that it's run at a particular standard, we have an allocated budget per month. We highly emphasize educational support for the children. We feel this is a catalyst in breaking cycles of poverty. And then lastly, currently, the place that we are currently residing at is a rental property. And so we are right at this moment fundraising and campaigning to purchase the property. I have a lot of support with me in doing this. I do not run Mayamiko on my own. Like I said, I have a fantastic team, and I also have partners in the UK, predominantly Kenyawi Kids, that is campaigning and supporting property purchase. And I also have other key partners like Lizzie that's joined today. She is phenomenal on the ground and supports with all administrative and operational requirements, and is currently actually our lead on safety of the childcare, of safeguarding policies for the Child Care Centre. So I do have a lot of support, and I am so grateful for the support that I've received so far. And like I mentioned earlier, I'm so grateful for the opportunity to share what we are doing on the ground and our fundraising needs at present. I think that concludes the presentation. I kept it very brief, and I'm happy to take questions from all of you.
Thank you so much, Shahina, for that presentation. Um, Maybe you could tell us a little bit, because Malawi is a country that we have not heard, so much about. Maybe tell us a bit about the country. How many Subud members are there in Malawi? What is the situation in Malawi? Because we know that what I know from many years ago is that at one point there was a very high incidence of HIV/AIDS that was creating childcare problems, because so many of the parents were ill or dying. And I don't know if that is still the situation, but it would be great to understand more about the context.
Yeah, yeah, of course. So Malawi is the fourth poorest country in the world. So we are definitely on the lower spectrum when it comes to provision of basic needs for both adults and children. In addition to that, the population of Malawi is 50% children. And so, which makes it even more difficult when their basic provision is not tended to or not given to. So in terms of the actual statistics, I didn't want to emphasize that too much because I feel as a community, as a culture, Malawi tends to look after one another. So if you go into the village, we operate on a chief basis. So every single village has a chief, and that chief has, their subordinates and each of the families. It's a very caring and giving structure that has been formed in the community. And the reason why I focus predominantly on extreme cases is because, one, there are many, many cases of children who, are struggling and are on the poverty spectrum, etc. However, you'll always find that a grandmother is taking care of four of her grandkids, or her sister's kid, or her niece's kid, and it works in a very family-oriented structure. Although obviously we're looking at majority of the country living on a certain income level, lower income level. So the reason why Mayamiko Child Care Centre looks and works directly with the Ministry of Social Welfare is to support children in extreme and dire need that require urgent assistance and emergency assistance that can no longer be found within their communities or within their chief district, etc. With regards to Cebu, Malawi, I believe the current figure at present is about 75 to 80 members, if I'm not mistaken. I can get that exact figure to you, but we have an extremely strong group of Cebu members in Malawi, both in Blantyre and in Lilongwe, and comprised of both female and males. So Cebu, Malawi is incredibly strong and growing, I would say, on a monthly basis continuously. And it's unfortunate that some of our committee members weren't able to join today, but I could definitely get the exact figures to you and send an email.
No, we don't need exact figures. That's perfect. Thank you so much. Maybe we could
Thank
open it up
you,
to
Michelle.
other people who have questions. Danica. No, not Danica. Um, Anybody else has some questions? Vincent.
Hello, Shahina. Nice to see you again. Um, I guess lots of things have come up in my head from the things that you were talking about. One of them is, as you know, that well, you may know or not, we have many young SUBID members, not just here in Britain, but in other countries, who are interested in volunteering in some of our projects. And at the moment, we've been as a Sisilidama organization, we've been um, trying to help uh, projects to host those volunteers, and it's not very easy for us. Sometimes it's quite challenging. A lot of our projects just struggle with doing the very project themselves, let alone having to think about looking after a couple of young volunteers from another country, all of the language differences, the cultural differences, the costs that go with actually hosting someone, is their accommodation, what kind of work will they be doing, all these kinds of things. So it really interested me to hear that you have an organization that you work with already in Britain called the Project Trust, did you say? That helps
Project
provide
Trust.
these, what was it called, sorry?
Project Trust.
Project Trust. And they help
Yeah.
provide you with almost like ready-made volunteers. Do these volunteers come with particular skills in childcare or education, or are they can they come with no experience whatsoever?
So the Project Trust volunteers are high school graduates that tend to want to take a gap year prior to continuing with higher education. Lizzie was actually one of our volunteers, and she was a
Wonder.
volunteer at 23. Yes. So with regards to the skill set of the volunteers, it's high school graduates that are looking for experience on the ground. They go through a minimal training in Scotland. And yeah, it's not necessarily skill-based. It's just very minimal support. And with regards to how they support Mayamiko, so they do activities for the children that's within their sort of skill set. And they do tutoring for young kids, like primary school kids, which also is within their skill set. But in terms of the demographic, with regards to the Project Trust volunteers, you're looking at between 17 to maybe upwards of 20. And it's very interesting that you mention, because like I have actually been thinking about ways in which I can add more volunteers to the childcare center and also support other projects with volunteers. And because we have such a wealth of experience on the ground now, I think it's something that to definitely speak about and see if we could open it up a bigger discussion on how that would actually be implemented. And I would love to support Cebu members who are looking for experience or knowledge or, you know, just exposure to another country and to offer their skill sets. So I think that's definitely something to explore. It's something that I have also thought about many times and also have asked in terms of guidance of how to go about this. And so maybe this is just one of those threads that are being woven.
Great, that sounds really fantastic, Shahina. We can talk about that more over the next few months to see what we can figure out. I just wanted to question one question about the language. I know I asked you last time on the call, but I forgot. What is the language that you will communicate in with the children? And I don't remember what the language is in Malawi.
The language is Chichewa, but it's nice to know that one of the most spoken languages here is also English. So
Oh, great.
that's helps activities and operational activities and also supports the volunteers as well who come in English speaking.
Great. Well, thank you.
So the children, Shahina, in your center, they speak Chichewa
Yes,
or
Chichewa.
English? Okay.
So predominantly Chichewa. However, they have English exposure, and then in school as well, because one of the major languages is English, they'll have they'll know both languages ultimately.
So the language of education is English, is that right?
Yes.
Or both, yeah.
I would say on a public school spectrum, it would be Chichewa, but integration of English. And then on a private school, it would be English.
Well, we have some educators here, Nurul. We have, I'm just looking around, Daniela Diniz, obviously, that runs Roda Viva in Portugal, in Lisbon. These can be really also interesting, Shahina. These are interesting people for you to get to know in our network. Roda Viva is a daycare center, but focused on special needs education. So it will be interesting for you, I hope, with time to get to know Daniela, to get to know Nurul, who's an early childhood specialist, our board member, Danica, who's a recreologist, also in education, alternative education. Are there any other questions that people might like to? Mary, maybe you have a question that, yes, Sandra.
Hello, Shahina. It's a lovely presentation. I have one question about the funding. Do you get any funding from the Ministry of Social Welfare?
Unfortunately, no. They do not support us financially, or shall I say, are unable to support us financially with regards to their funding capacity and their funding needs. Just also a bit of context, Malawi doesn't have any structural support for cases. Like I've mentioned, they do not have any form of foster care support, elderly support, all of these support systems that you would see in the UK or in Canada. They don't exist in Malawi. I think if there's one form of support that does, it's adoption care. However, adoption itself, there's such stringent legalities associated with it. But unfortunately, there are no systems in place for the level of support that we are currently giving with emergency care. And so the ministry, ultimately, what they will do is that they will check that we are operating at a certain standard, like they have definitely been involved in that. And we work hand in hand to ensure that we have a structure in place for them. So we tend to be, they tend to rely on us as a childcare center, as an emergency care center, to support them with integration and reintegration protocols. Ultimately, like I would say, the ministry, thus, they have supported us with energy provision for cooking. So this was charcoal, I'm not sure, like charcoal briquettes. So they have been able to support us once with charcoal briquettes that lasted about 3 to 4 months. So that was something that they were able to organize. But in terms of their capacity to support the operational support for us, it's very minimal.
Right.
Thank you for the question. I asked the same question at the beginning, Sandra. Mary.
Hello, thank you for this presentation. It was really just wonderful to see. I have a couple of questions about the schooling. Up to age 12, they're educated at the center. And then what happens to them after age 12? And what happens to them if they're placed in foster care? What happens to their schooling at that point?
So we take the case on an individual basis because the capacity and skill set of a child will differ on a case-to-case basis. So majority of the children in our childcare center are currently placed at 3 different schools based on their skill set. After the age of 12, unfortunately, we're tending to see that at the level of emergency care, a child is traumatized, a child is being impacted with malnutrition, etc. They tend to lean more towards vocational school and vocational studies. However, we do have cases where children have shown academic excellence. And so we have supported them through, like I have a case, his name is Cheapy. Because I've been doing this for so long, I've supported these children over the years more than Mayamiko has been operating. So he showed academic excellence and he's actually graduated in journalism at a university. So it's very individualized and very case by case. I have another case, his name is Mike. He was just not showing any form of interest in school. However, he was really interested in electrician work and electrical work. And so we supported him through a vocational center where he was given a certificate, and now he does work as an electrician and based on his skill set and skill capacity. So the ultimate goal is to support the child and their needs based on their individual selves, to allow them to find some form of, once they reach a certain age, some form of income and independence. That's the ultimate goal of the institution. So we do not abandon a case once a child has been reintegrated or a child is above 12. We are following all of these cases as we are going along. And the ultimate goal is for them to have some form of income and independent living and some skill set to contribute to society.
What about girls? Are they encouraged to go to school and get an education?
That is one of probably our greatest struggles at the moment, actually, because I feel girls are more prone and susceptible to pregnancy and, to home care, etc., which there's nothing absolutely wrong with that. But in terms of the influence of education seems to be harder with the girls than it is with the males. However, we do have support programs in place. We have a monthly so our older girls will come for a monthly support program where they're offered coaching and counseling and shown the importance of education. Most recently, I brought in a university graduate who has a full-time job, currently doing her PhD as well, to showcase that, once you receive that level of education, independent living and consistent income is possible, and another life, another path is possible. So we are doing our best on the ground to continuously emphasize the importance of education, but I must say it is very difficult to break this level of poverty cycle that we are observing on the ground.
Thank you.
Shahina, that brings up something really interesting. We have a Diantessa on the call here with us today. Is from Congo. Maybe he'll probably speak about this himself, but similar things going on in the Congo in terms of how young women, how they have such challenges in life and what are the opportunities for young women. One of the projects that we've been supporting in the Congo most recently is some community learning centers specifically for young women, because they are so it's so difficult for them to receive a full education. But it's looking at sort of vocational training, the sort of things that the skills they may lack for being able to generate an income, because they tend to have children quite young as a teenager, and then they really don't have much chance at all. But my question was actually going to be about the funding. And it's incredible what you're already achieving with all of these. You've got 14 staff, you've got 65 kids that you've been helping over the last couple of years. How are you doing it funding wise? Where are you getting the majority of your funding from?
So I have multiple partners. So one of my partners is Kenyawi Kids, and Kenyawi Kids was absolutely paramount in helping me start this institution, start this childcare center. I also have, because I've been dealing with volunteers for many, many years that have come from the UK, I've created a network of individuals that have also provided support. I'm also fortunate to come from a family that encourages and supports me as well. So I do have private assistance from my family on a monthly basis as well, which I think I've shared via email as well. So it is very, I would say for the past 2 years, it hasn't been as structured as I would like it. And it hasn't been as, I have funding needs covered for the year. That's something that I'd like to grow towards. But I would say that with my charitable sources and my partners, we are working towards that and growing towards that. And I think I've shared with Virginia, like for this year, at the start of this year, I had 50% of funding covered, which is from partners and private donors, etc. And then the appeal to Cebu International and Cecilia Dharma International was support with the additional operational costs. For example, as well, with the house purchase is currently £65,000. Through campaigning with our partners, we've achieved £20,000, which I feel like is fantastic. And that in itself is an achievement. And so I have a great network in Malawi and internationally that has really supported me thus far. And I hope to continue to build on it.
Wow, incredible. I think you're a great example.
Congratulations. Shahina, we have 2 questions in the chat. The first one is, do you send any 18-year-olds to Green Malata training village run by Margaret Sakrani?
I do not. I have definitely heard of her work on the ground, but no, currently I am not affiliated or haven't visited her center as of yet.
Okay. And then there's
However, we do have
Oh,
many. I
sorry.
was just going to say we do have many training facilities that we are associated with on the ground and that are also run by individuals in Malawi that support vocational training for the kids.
Thank you. Thank you, Shahina.
Magdalene, can I just ask, the reason you posted that, I'm assuming, is because she's related to you, Marguerite?
Yes, and it has its roots, of course, in Subut. Hamid, who was my husband Aziz Sakrani's older brother, was helped very much when he became a paraplegic after a road accident in Malawi. You know the Sakrani family, perhaps, Shahina?
I do know the
And
Sakrani
Central
family.
Bookshop and so on. And in return, the doctor who attended on Aziz at that time and helped him so much in Holland asked him to start the Children's Fund of Malawi. So you know, that's been a sort of ongoing provision for children who literally have no other access to help for the last 60 years, really. Aziz and Hamid were Subut members, along with Narayan, a Hindu gentleman, and Sharafin Gardner, who had interests in a tea plantation in Malawi, used to come as well. So Subut Malawi then had a little interest with the Children's Fund of Malawi, and we accelerated fundraising and so on here in the UK from 1988 onwards, when so many, particularly Mozambique refugees, swelled the population in Malawi and made it impossible for the services to cope, really. And then HIV, quite right, that sort of turned everything upside down, and children were left abandoned in villages. And Marguerite and Hamid asked for a lot more help from 1990s. So Tutor Orphanage was opened at that time. And then down at Lucenza, the Green Malata was started off so that the orphans leaving Tutor could go on and be trained and given something for their future life. So Green Malata has an association with Subut too, a very tenuous one, it has to be said at the moment, but Marguerite is always there for assisting with training your older children.
That's really nice to know.
Nice to know. Thank you for sharing that story. Magdalene, you're not based in Malawi, no?
No, in Oxford.
Oxford,
but once you've been to Malawi, I worked in Malawi, and that's how I met Aziz so many years ago. And Malawi is one of these countries that is forever in your heart. It is the warm heart of Africa. Malawi is that little country, but it just can't manage to keep its head above water most of the time. And I've been continually with Aziz, who passed away 2 years ago now. Malawi's been there. We have family still there, of course, and we fundraise all the time through a book, which hopefully we can speak to Shahina about another time.
You should, Magdalena. It's a really nice book.
Thank you.
Excellent, yes.
There's another, Rashida asks, is there any kind of connection for the kids with their parents if the parents are trying to get themselves in a better place or eventually be able to have their children back?
That is such a great question.
Any type of
So
program or
with regard-
classes for the parents? That's the end of the question.
Yeah, so with regards to the parents, unfortunately, we do not have any integrated programs or classes because right now the focus is the children within the home. However, once a child is placed within parental support or guidance via the Ministry of Social Welfare and our Child Care Centre, we will then support the parent through parenting that child. So, for example, if a parent is equipped as a foster parent or equipped as a guardian or caregiver, we will then help the relationship between that parent and the child. Unfortunately, for parents that have abandoned the child or neglected, we do not have any form of affiliation with those parents. But we do have affiliation with parents who want to come and visit the child, which we open up the center so that they have that communication with the child and they're able to check in with the child as and when they see fit. But unfortunately, right now, no, I'd have to say no, we do not. But
Shahina,
definitely something to look into and something to take into consideration.
yes, I might ask also, maybe we can follow up later. It would be interesting for you to know about the work of Roda Viva and the program that was developed by Subud members called International Child Development Program, ICDP, which is a methodology for working with caregivers to help them improve their capacity to give care. So maybe Daniela, one day we can make a connection with Shahina. It would be it's a training of trainers. ICDP is a training of trainers. And so it could be an interesting option for your center later on. Linnell says, Lawrence O'Donnell from MSNBC.com news platform with headquarters in New York, has a strong interest in education in Malawi and does annual fundraising to get desks for school children in Malawi. I think this would be a fantastic Susila Dharma project for him to learn about and possibly network with in the future. I suggest to Vincent, Virginia, and Shahina to consider making that networking connection. And I myself am going to think about sending him an email send it to rachel@msnbc.com. So this is Linnell. I want to say thank you because sometimes people think that giving money is the only way they can help Susila and Dharma, but actually the connection that you're making between someone who's passionate about Malawi and fundraising for Malawi and Shahina's project is a great way to help. The money doesn't have to come through Susila Dharma. Any way we can support this wonderful project is good. So sometimes your connections and your knowledge about who's doing what in the world is a very precious resource. So Linnell, we're going to continue talking to you about this, how we can make this connection. Thank you so much for thinking of that. Do you want to say anything more about it, Linnell? Sorry, I don't see you on my screen because I only get a certain number of people on my screen at once.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, Linnell, there we hear you.
I'm
Thank
I'm
you.
still getting used to using Zoom. I'm a very elderly person at this point, and I blocked my visuals somehow. Yeah, well, I'm a very normal person, and I don't have the capacity to myself speak with Lawrence or Rachel or these really intelligent people like you and Vincent and Shahina. But if but there is an avenue of just you can send something to Rachel Maddow at MSNBC, and I think some staff person would probably get the message through. But I'm thinking that if you official people who know how to talk to other people at your professional level did it, it would be so much better. And that's really all I know.
Thank you, Linnell.
Thanks,
But
Linnell.
Lawrence, you're right. Lawrence absolutely loves Malawi. He goes there every year. You can tell it's the thing that touches his heart. And you're right, he has a passion about it. So it occurred to me.
bless you. Shahina, do you have any kind of video of your center that might further touch Lawrence's heart?
Yeah, we definitely do. And I definitely want to put together more recent videos. And so we could share that for sure.
Thank you. If you need any help, our dear brother Isidro is a master videographer, so he is at your
Amazing.
disposal.
Well, thank you so much.
Diantessa, did you want to speak? I feel like I cut you off.
Yes, thanks to Shaina for this presentation. But just a small question, because I know that there are many cases, I suppose that there are many cases in Malawi. Are there criteria to, if they have more children to join this the center? Are there criteria to select who they can keep in the project or no?
Shahina, did you understand the question?
A little.
He's asking if there are criteria, because maybe there are more children that need this care than you can accommodate. What are the criteria for selecting which children you accept into the center? Or is it just first come, first served basis?
Yeah, I would say it's a first come, first served basis. However, we do have a minimum criteria. For example, the center does not have the capacity to support children under the age of 1. In addition to that, the center does not have the capacity to support disabled children and mentally ill children. So our capacity at present and our criteria ultimately is above the age of 1. If it's above the age of 12, it's very temporary support or shelter care before the child is then reintegrated. And unfortunately, with a staff of 14 and our capacity of the home and our outreach program, we aren't able to accommodate towards disabled and mentally ill because it requires much more hands-on support and much more integration and thought into that childcare process. Again, this is something that hopefully maybe one day will grow towards, but at present, that's our minimum criteria.
Quite
And when I
understandable,
say
yeah.
when I say mentally ill, I mean on a very extreme spectrum, because majority of these cases are trauma-driven cases. I'll give you a case of a girl that was just emergency shelter. Emergency case where she came in at the age of 11. We integrated her. It was through the police, etc. And she ended up defecating across the entire child care center. And so I don't have the vision to support that level of care. So when I'm talking about mentally ill, I'm talking about extremely extreme cases where I would need additional staff, additional counseling, additional support, which at present we aren't able to accommodate towards.
And the
Makes sense.
ministry, yeah, the ministry, I guess, is not able to give you resources to help those cases. It's too extreme, I guess, too expensive.
Yeah, but we do have other centers that cater specifically to the disabled and cater specifically to extreme cases that need that extra level of care and support. But at present, the way the center is structured, we aren't able to.
Thank you, Shahina. Nurul.
Shahina, on average, how long do the children stay in your house?
Honestly, it varies. So as I mentioned, like we have children that came in like April 2023, they're still here with us. I have a case where a child was there for 7 months and then was successfully adopted. I have cases where, you know, it's just held while a child is families located because of the child is lost. And so they're there for 2 to 4 days. So I would say that I wouldn't be able to give you an average because it's such a wide spectrum of cases that we're currently dealing with on the ground.
Thank you. Thank you, Shahina. I have a question about where did this come from in you? I don't know how old you are, Shahina, but you seem very young to me and a young professional, and you're working full time for UNDP. And where did this feeling to start this center come from in you?
So I am 34 years old, and so I'm not that young. So I had this feeling initially. So I was raised in Malawi, and then I spent about 10 years in Canada doing my further education. And I would come home to visit Malawi. And I would say at the age of 17, there was just an inner, I was not a member of Savud back then, but we still get intuitive inspiration and these inner purpose. So I'd say at the age of 17, I started to feel this call. And when I'd come back to Malawi, I would visit centers and I would have family members who were incredibly giving and charitable, and they would expose me to the needs on the ground. And the needs on the ground tended to be childcare, tended to be healthcare, tended to be education. And I think for myself as well, as I've obviously continued in this path, I realize the privilege that I'm given and the privilege of a home and family and parents and siblings and nutrition and education. And I can't imagine that being taken away from me and where I would be today had I not received that provision. And so I guess it comes from a place of it's actually becoming more and more apparent that I want to be able to give that level of care to a child that does not have that level of care, ultimately to allow them to reach their full potential, because I would not be here had it not been for the support my parents have given me, the support my mentors have given me, my educators have given me. And so I want to be able, and it breaks my heart that a child does not have that support. And so I think that's where that feeling has gotten even stronger over the years.
Shahina, can I ask you, how do you cope when you're feeling really awful inside and you don't know how to carry on? What do you do? What are your inner resources that help you?
I must say I've had a lot of moments like that, actually. And sometimes you get such extreme and dire cases that you do lose hope and you do feel hopeless. And unfortunately, like with this work, yes, I am very supported, but a lot of what I do comes with skepticism, right? How can you do that? Why are you doing that? It's too much pain. You shouldn't carry this path on, just stick to, what you know. So I have had many, many moments, and I feel in those moments, and this is like super cliche, I guess, but it's the grace of God that helps me through it. I mean, it's my friends that I constantly rely on and show me that I am capable and inspire me to continue on. And my partners, my partner in the UK, unfortunately, she's not here on the call today, but she's just been such a fantastic support in reminding me of the work on the ground, which is it's the children, it's for the children, you know. I do this for the kids. And so have they not have that provision? What do they do? Of course, you know, life makes a plan, but the fact that I'm able to ease their pain and ease their struggles, that's what keeps me growing. That's what keeps me going. That's what gives me the courage to stand here today and like speak to you all, because I'm standing on behalf of these kids that, you know, need this kind of care and support. And like Virginia, you rightly mentioned, there are so many children that need this support. And there are times at the institution where I have to say no. I have to say we are at capacity. I cannot take any more children. There are times at the institution where a child is now coming, needs to be reintegrated into community and family, and they don't want to leave and they want to maintain and stay within the institution. And I have to say, no, you have to go. And so there are many, many moments like that, but it's honestly, it's the grace of God, and it's the courage and an inner purpose that I feel to keep going.
Oh, thank you.
Wow.
That's very touching.
Wow.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Are there any other questions, comments, connections that we are making here with Shahina to support her in her endeavor, Valentine?
Yeah, just no question, because you made already all the questions. But I'm touched, Shahina. You're brave, and God bless you. It's a wonderful project, what it makes me feel in this call, you know, it makes me feel all the support, you know, all the people here, all the support that they are giving you, you know, in the feelings, and also some idea for practical support. You know, Vincent, Virginia, they were asking some questions, and I could see that those questions are going to do something also in the future, you know, can be developed, you know, and it's like an open door, really like an open door. I see that, you know, so God bless you, and you're brave, you know, and all the support that we can give in any way. As Virginia said before, there are many ways to give support, you know, also to be close in the feelings also. And then practically, of course. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you.
Mhm.
Thank you so much, Valentine. Honestly, the work that you did when you came to Malawi really touched my heart, and the other helpers that you came with as well. You know, the connections that were made. It's phenomenal where one conversation can lead to the other. And Aisha speaks so highly of you, and I'm just so glad that it's led us here today.
Yeah, the same for me. The same for me. And then, you know, you bring Malawi, you know, that is so touching. The group, you know, Harina is here in the call. We were there, so she knows. And Malawi is unforgettable, you know, all of you, all the group, the Subud group, you know, and the countries and everything. And I mean, when we met, you know, it was really fantastic. And to see how the things are moving on, you know, makes feel really the reality of Subud. When we are all together, we are all connected, and we can do lots of things, you know. I really thank you again very much.
Thank you
Wonderful.
so much, Valentine, for sharing that. And as this is for some of us who are fasting for the month of Ramadan, this is a special time for me personally. It's very moving to be together with all of you. And maybe we could close with a quiet, but also a quiet where we inwardly feel the love and support for Shahina, for her project, and we each find a way to take something forward. Maybe it's a prayer, maybe it's a connection, maybe it's I have this person who I know who could maybe help. Each one of us has a way to manifest this love inside, and let's just take it forward. And so maybe just thank you, Shahina, for sharing your beautiful project, your life's work, your passion with us. And let's just have a moment of quiet together and positive thoughts and love for Shahina's project and her work.